It is time for a video from my workshop area here, and as you can see, the table is currently occupied by wheels. What's going to happen today is that I'm going to take all of the hardware and tires and everything from the old rear wheel of my mountain bike and put on this new rear wheel for a mountain bike, which I have just purchased. The reason why I'm doing this, fixing just one wheel on my mountain bike, is because this one is busted. So let's look at that first and see what it is that we're fixing today. Just put this off to the side, the new one. So this is the old one. You can see it's battered. This is a mountain bike that has seen some action, even though I use it as a city bike, but I drive it hard. Every day, rain and shine. You can see it's got some rust on it, which is just from the last couple of weeks of winter, because I do try to keep it, but it gets used, and this wheel is a decade old or something like that. And I just noticed the other day when I was riding to work, it made a bumping noise, and I could feel some friction, and I wondered what that was all about. Turns out it's simply worn through. The aluminum of the wheel itself here, the rim, has become so thin that the pressure from the tire has split the aluminum. And this is a problem. I mean, I'm basically lucky it didn't kind of explode or something, because when I first noticed it, it was like a third of this. This is just in 2 days. And I have to keep using it because I use it to get to work. So I immediately went online to my preferred vendor, someone I've bought a lot of bicycle stuff from, and I bought a new rear wheel, complete one, with the hub, of course. I mean, you saw it. There's everything there except the tire and what goes with that, and then of course the 8-gear thingy here, the cassette. So I'm putting all of that old stuff onto the new wheel. That's what's happening today. And of course, the first thing I have to do that is to get everything off of the old wheel. And to do that, the first thing I have to do is get the air out of the tire. This is a slick tire, and it's not actually slick. It has, I think they call them micro dots or micro something. It's not slick as such. But I'm here to tell you, when I went from a regular rough pattern kind of tractor tire on this bike to this, I kissed the asphalt a couple of times. I had to get used to the fact that I didn't have, with this tire, I don't have a rim of like rubber teeth that'll catch when I cut hard. So I turned a bit too sharply on a wet surface, and I was down. It happened a couple of times. But the thing about this tire is it's fairly high pressure, and that means that certainly doesn't help when this aluminum of the hub is simply too thin to withstand this tire this pressure. Certainly doesn't help. So let's take the pressure out. And I didn't actually know that this could happen to a wheel, a bicycle wheel. But obviously it stands to reason. I use that brake all the time, obviously. So even though the rubber against the metal, the rubber is going to be the material that gives, well, this is aluminum, and it will slowly, wear. It'll wear down and be thinner, become thinner and thinner over time. Anyway, that's it. The pressure's out. And we're ready to take the tire off. So let's do that. I like these plastic tire irons here. I think they're very practical, and they're certainly a lot safer than when I was a kid. We'd just get a screwdriver and do this. And like, you know, every so often, you jam that screwdriver right into the inner tube, and that's that. You know, how to get a new one. There we go. Tire is loose. Honestly, I'm expecting these gloves to give at some point. They probably won't last, and my fingers will get dirty. Probably going to happen, but let's see if I'm able to at least minimize the dirtiness of my fingers a little bit for this job here. There's the inner tire. Oh, sorry, here. There's the inner tube. There is the inner tube, and it seems like, oh yeah. Yeah, see, I patched that up once before, and there's a tendency for these patches to stick a little bit to the inside, so yeah, being a little careful when removing it. There we go. One of the things that goes on the new wheel, I just put that behind me, and actually, there we go. It felt like it was sticking. Well, it was sticking, and I thought maybe I'd have to get violent, but that's okay. That's fine, I got it. Fingers are fine, fingers are enough. There we go. Tires off, put that behind me as well. Let's get the, well actually there's a new one of those. Well, I have to get it off anyway, because I have to get the cassette off. So let's get that off. The quick release. Oops. Get the quick release off. Go. And yeah, and it's time to get the cassette off. So to take the gears or the gear cassette off of a wheel like this, what you need to do is unscrew this end cap here. And as you can see, the hole in the middle there has a bunch of notches around the circumference of it. And there's a special tool, namely this one, which fits in those notches. And then what you need to do, is turn that tool with, I prefer to use a big wrench like this, but you need to turn it just like anything. But then in order to be able to do that, you need this special tool to let you hold on to the cassette to keep it from turning with your wrench, with your wrenching. So that's how you do it. So these two tools here now work against each other in terms of force, and I hold on to that one and loosen that one. And once it's loose, it's actually no big deal. You just need to get it loose and off it comes. There we go. See? It's just this little threaded cap that goes on there. Taking that off, put it over there, and get this off. Whoops. Yeah, see, that's, now you know what this is all about. Because the cassette is not actually one unified unit, not entirely. It has 1, 2 loose gears at the end here. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't actually know why. But that's the reality of my cassette for this bike anyway. So they come off, and then this comes off. There's the cassette. And like I said, it's a little rusty. It's not actually that old. You can see from the inside. It's actually fairly okay. But it takes a beating because of the weather here in Copenhagen. And this is middle of winter, so it has a bit of rust on it that I haven't dealt with. I'll do that right now. But that's it. Actually, there is this sort of... I was about to say, there is this old protector, but it's a little brittle. Yeah, and as I was saying it, it broke right in my hands. I didn't buy a new one of these. That's the old wheel, and that's the one that goes out and goes away. It's not a bicycle wheel for me anymore. It's not a bicycle wheel for anyone, because once again, it's broken. It's busted. That's going to fall apart completely if you apply any force to it. So put that away, And now it's time to put everything on the new one, the new wheel. So I'm going to take the label off. Yay! And also here's the quick release, which is just stripped on there. So get that off. Oops, oops. There we go. Yeah. And I think, I guess this is ready to go. I don't think I need to do much about it, actually, because it's complete and it's assembled and it feels like the hub feels nicely. It's not too loose, not too tight. Yeah, it's great. It's ready. I don't need to do anything more about this. Not that I can tell. And of course, it's the exact same size, the same width as the old one. And it's a 20, this is a 26 inch. So obviously it's the exact same size. Anyway, let's just put those aside for a moment, because I want to clean this up a little bit. All right, so the camera cut out while I was cleaning this. I'm very sorry. Anyway, I got through with that. I got done with that, and it looks a lot nicer than it did before. So we're ready to put everything on the new wheel. So let's do that. Let's get to the really fun part. So here's the new wheel, and I think I'll put the cassette on first. Obviously goes on here, this cassette receiver, I think you would call it. And there are some notches around the side of this, some raised notches and the corresponding recesses, but they're not the same all the way around. So one of them is smaller, and I look for that. I mean, you can put it on and just sort of wiggle it around until it works, but anyway, there's the small one, goes right on. And obviously the same for these other, the two final ones. There we go. And the tiny one, the tiny final one goes on. There we are. And there's no doubt, when they're on correctly, you know. It just sits there and it grips like it's supposed to. And then finally, the end cap, which I also cleaned. Turns out there's writing on it. I bet you couldn't see that. And it goes on like that. And where's the tool? Put it in here. There we are, the special tool for this one. Obviously you don't need the other special tool. You only need that for taking it off. For putting it on, you just basically just get it to grab the threads. There we are. It's grabbing the threads. It has some sort of a ratchet, but it's on there, and I tighten it as much as I can with my fingers. And I am sure for those who are more serious about their bikes than I am, you should probably use a torque wrench, or there's a certain torque for this or whatever. I'm not that serious, to be honest. What I do is I put it on and I tighten it until I feel like it's reasonable. Something like that. You probably don't want to apply too much force because the thread is tiny and very fine. I guess you could ruin it, but I try to give it a good tug, and that's it. I think that's good enough. I hope so. It's good enough for me. And there we are. The cassette is on. Next step, I'm going to put on the tube and tire. So let's put them behind me over here. final thing, the quick release. So let's put that on. Have it over here. And what I did is apply just a little bit of wet oil. I have this sort of like an all-weather kind of a little bit thick oil. And I applied some of that to it because it is a metal part against other metal, and it is mechanical. It may not be a huge deal how lubricated the inside of the quick release is, but I thought, it's probably it can't possibly hurt. So I did that, and then it goes on like this. Remember the spring, and remember to turn it the right way when you put it on. There we are. So that's ready. And the final thing, I think, seems like it, the valve cap. Don't lose it. And you know what? We're done. Isn't that pretty? I'm happy. I'm going to level with you. This is fairly early on a Saturday, and I started fairly early on a Saturday because I wanted to make sure that the local bike shops were open in case I messed something up so that I could still salvage myself if this took longer than I thought, and or if I ruined something or lost something. But this went a lot easier and quicker than I might have feared, and we're ready. I'm ready to put this on. I'm going to do that down in the basement. You're not going to see that because I don't have any proper lighting or anything down there. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be nice to have a shiny new wheel, even though the rest of the bike is going to look terrible by comparison. So there we are. Replacing the wheel part of a bicycle wheel and putting all of the hardware from the old one onto the new one. We're done with that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.